call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Lazara.
Here.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Here.
Alderman E. Wesley. Alderman R. Wesley. Alderman Winger. Alderman Woods.
Here. I declare a quorum present. Please stand, join the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mayor, please.
Do any citizens wish to be heard on matters not listed on the agenda? Ms. Stoll?
Ready?
Yes, yes. Roy is here. Is it microphone? Thank you, Matt.
Okay. My name is Patricia Stoll. My address is 145 South Cedar, Wooddale. Phone number 630-766-6981. And what I'm addressing this evening is a follow-up to my attendance at the June 19th City Council meeting, where I indicated that the neighborhood I live in, bounded by Iroquois Trail on the east, Montrose on the north, and Cedar Avenue on the west side. My address is Cedar Avenue. And we have a problem with storm water inundation. There is no existent stormwater drainage. I had presented this problem on the 19th of June at the City Council meeting. And on June 26th, I did receive a telephone call in response to the problem. The telephone call came from Matt, head of the Public Works Department, Matt York. And I just need to indicate that there's some problem with the feedback. Matt stated that the resolutions that make the most sense, there were 4 resolutions I had suggested, ranging from probably the least effective to very expensive. And the resolutions were basically that the city could restore the swale that had existed historically as the only means of floodwater drainage, or they could install backyard sewers, storm sewers leading from basically my backyard to Montrose, which has been the historic flow pattern, or the city could mandate that everybody within the problem area direct their sump pumps and downspouts and any other extemporaneous water to the streets, which do contain storm sewers. And the final one was that you could buy all the property back. So anyway, in response to the 4 alternatives, Matt stated that the resolutions that made the most sense were 1, the restoration of the drainage swale, or the installation of rear yard sewer drains, or a combination of those 2 options. The restoration of the drainage swales are the least effective. They get filled in as soon as somebody new moves in and decides that they don't understand why their backyards are squishy, so they fill in the swale. However, Matt stated that neither of these can get done without me, meaning himself, York, having the rights to that property. He stated, "I am told that a utility easement is not a drainage easement. A utility easement is for the utility poles and the stuff on the poles, not for any drainage or anything the city created or could utilize. As of this time, the city has no responsibility for doing anything about the stormwater drainage. We have no stormwater drainage. We have no drainage easement. And we're without any recourse for getting the water out of the back of our yards. And it's coming into some homes, sunrooms. It is coming in basement windows. It is undermining, making muck out of the backyards. And it is affecting such things as the stability of foundations, and it certainly is making one grand nest for the mosquitoes. I was told that we have no drainage easement back there. Without a drainage easement, we cannot do anything about the stormwater drainage problem in the rear. I asked Matt to meet with a group of the neighborhood residents and explain all of this to them. Matt declined. It's going to be a lynch mob. I did update him, since he's new to to our town, that we have never had a citizen attack or lynch a city worker. I invited him to come out and bring, if necessary for his comfort, a police officer. And we further thought that maybe it might be a good idea to bring along Mr. Bond, the city attorney, if he felt that that would additionally make him comfortable. Matt responded that he would have to consult with other members of his team before he could accept that invitation. My daughter, who happened to be on the phone as well, said, "We look forward to hearing back from you. City Hall knows that none of us shoots the messenger, and that may be why the city council and the city lawyer have sent you."
Ms. Stone?
Matt stated this
Pat?
is,
What we could do is put this on the agenda. We could have some of the neighbors come out and have a discussion, because we really can't even discuss it tonight because it's not on the agenda. So if we want to discuss it, we would have to put this on the agenda, because you're making the comments.
I am repeating verbatim the telephone call with Matt,
Right, no, I understand
who
that,
was
but,
sent out to tell us that the city could do nothing because we didn't have any drainage in the utility. There was no drainage allowance in the utility easement, which I have done research on, and this is not accurate.
okay. But
And
if
I
you-
don't quite understand what you're suggesting.
Well, we could have a discussion at committee level. A lot of residents come forward, we discuss it at a committee level, so,
I don't know what there is to discuss. He has told us that there is nothing the city has any responsibility for, if I finished the next page.
if you want to continue, if you wanted to put it on a committee agenda, we could do that.
I would just as soon finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you. Lisa suggested that Matt come out, do the presentation of the problem, and discuss it with the neighbors there. Matt's reply was, "This is not a public works issue. Once something happened, then it would become a public works issue." I asked, what does it take for something to happen that would turn this into a public works issue? Matt replied that if we had a drainage easement and if there was a swale in there, it could it would be my problem. I stated there has been a swale in the utility easement, and there is still a couple of block-off remnants of the original swale. His response was, I know, Pat, but I don't have the authority to go back there to do anything. That's what this all comes down to. This is the interpretation of the person who is telling me how we need to run this city and how the city needs this to operate. Until I have the right to go back there to the rear property, if we have a swale and a drain and an easement and the swale becomes in need of maintenance, then that would be my responsibility to make sure that the drainage swale continues to operate efficiently. Until that happens, if it ever happens, then it is a public works issue. The final page is, none of this makes any sense unless the purpose of all of this inaccurate information and double talk is the city's attempt to evade responsibility and corrective action. I have been dealing with this through several legislations of the City Council. And my question becomes, how far up the executive, legal, political, and emergency management ladders do we have to go as a group to get this corrected? FEMA demands that the community mitigate flood water conditions. Do we need to initiate a lawsuit against the city? Do we need to take our flood issues to the newspapers? I don't think that we're going to any longer silently and passively accept the going around in circles. Some people have been dealing with this for decades. Others have been dealing with it for 10 years, and it's not getting resolved. So we ask that you work with us to make Wooddale a cleaner, safer, healthier place to live. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Does any other resident wish to approach, speak?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir. If you could go up to the podium, state your name.
My name is Herman Greinick. I'm a resident of Wooddale. My address is 120 South Iroquois. Actually, I am one of the backyards of Pat, and she lives a couple houses down from me to the south. My neighbor who lives to the south of me, I think his address is 124, 128. He has a patio door on the back side of his house. Every time we have a large rain, the water seems to find its way to the patio door in the back. That house has been flooded in the last 15 years about 4 times that I know of. When, if my memory serves me correctly, and Matt, maybe you could help me, when was Iroquois Trail reconstructed? Do you have that at all? That was approximately, what, 8 years ago? Right, Frank? At that time, in the infinite wisdom of the engineer who designed the road, and thought that it would be all right to get rid of the ditches that were in front of the road and put storm sewers in. Well, it just so happened the high spot on the road is at my address. However, I have a drain tile between my neighbor to the south and to me that I put in myself that ran out into the ditch that drained the water from his backyard and my backyard. That line is a 6-inch line. It goes approximately from my back wall line, and it fed out into the old ditch line, which was covered up. And in its place, a 4-inch line was put in to carry the water to the south. However, my line is a 6-inch line, so it does not take enough water out to drain his backyard and my backyard. All I can say is that there was some kind of error on the engineer who drew this plan up that did it inadequately. Otherwise, he would not be in such a state of affairs every time it rains, that 1.5 inches, 2 inches of rain. Now, I can't blame the village for the 2 inches of rain, but I can blame the village for a 4-inch pipe to drain a 6-inch pipe that leads into it. It does not make any sense. That's only one of the problems. As Pat is correct in regards to, there was a drainage on the lot, the rear lot line of those lots of behind Iroquois Trail and behind Cedar. For many years, if you remember, at some history of Wooddale, there was a firefighter called Ted Decca. And Ted Decca, on his property, volunteered, and all the residents on Iroquois and Cedar put into a fund to put a culvert through his property to drain all the water that came from the end of Iroquois Trail that went down to Montrose. Through the years, like Pat said, people move in, got a soggy backyard, they fill the dirt, fill it back in, or they do a little landscaping around their house, all the extra dirt goes in the back by the drainage swale, and it's non-existent. The only part of the swale that's still there is probably on my property and the property to my neighbor to my south of me, have that swale in there. The water going north, that has been filled in, and the water doesn't go anywhere. So naturally, it goes in my backyard and it goes in my neighbor's backyard. And that's how come he has the water coming in his patio doors. Now, that culvert was put in probably mid to late 70s. I've been at that, my address, 120, since 1971. So take it as a worth. We got two problems. The swale in the back, that was there, is not anymore. And number two is the drainage from a 6-inch pipe going to a 4-inch pipe is a real problem, and I blame that on the engineering crew and the engineering department of the city of Wooddale. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens wish to address the council? We need a motion to approve the minutes, city council meeting, June 19, 2014.
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have no written communiques. On the mayor's report, fair organization, does Wooddale want to become a member? Costs nothing to become a member. I don't know if you read through the literature. Any questions? Discussion? Do we have a motion?
I make the motion that we join the fair organization.
Second.
Alderman Woods?
So when we join this organization, what are we gonna do? What's gonna happen, or are we gonna do different than we do now?
Go ahead, Mr. Bond.
Well, what it is, it's a grassroots organization. What's going to happen is they intend to organize rally to get the names of concerned residents and citizens, and to take those names by way of petition to the elected officials, to Representative Quigley and so forth. So what they're looking for is both individual participants as well as municipal participants to make a louder voice and hopefully be heard. Their goal is to try and provide some noise relief from the increase in activity at O'Hare Airport as a result of the construction of the new runways. And they're looking at a number of different things, including the possibility of imposition of a mandatory no-fly time quiet zone between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 or 7 a.m. So they've got an agenda of things they want to do. It truly is, though, a grassroots organization. So what they're trying to do is to increase the number of members that they have in the organization, and to have a stronger, louder voice that they can go to the elected officials and hope to effect some change. They're not trying to turn the hands of time back and undo the development and expansion of O'Hare Airport. They're trying to make it so that there's, whether it's increasing the noise contour, changing that 65 decibel level noise contour for soundproofing, increasing the soundproofing, or restricting flights on certain runways. Those are all within their objectives, and they want to get as much support as they possibly can to get the attention of those who can affect change.
Go ahead, follow up.
Who's the, and I'm in favor of all those things,
Right.
having sat on the technical committee for 3 years, pulling what's left of my hair out, but who's the driver behind that? Who's the head of the organization? Somebody's got to be spearheading this. How's that set up?
Actually, there's a gentleman, his name is Jack Charlier. He's like the head guy. Basically, went to a meeting this past Saturday. They had a meeting, and they're passing out door hangers, basically they're trying to create numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it. They said they had sent 7 letters to the mayor of Chicago, because these guys, they're all on, pretty much on the east side, and they have received no response. They have heard some little noise coming out of his staff, but no direct response or even acknowledgement from the mayor of Chicago. But I know Norwich, I believe, has joined. Bensenville, I think, joined this week, Pat, or last week?
Last week.
I know Itasca was considering. We're trying to create numbers, just like with our Suburban O'Hare Commission. We're also working on other things like the federal EPA. We had Elk Grove here, Addison, Itasca, Bensenville, Wooddale.
Okay,
Go
and
ahead.
again, I'm 100% in favor. My only concern is that we get too fragmented with the different groups and create different agendas. I would hope that we come together with those numbers and can create some effective change. Thanks.
Alderman Jacob?
And I actually talked to, I have about probably 25 of my residents that have already joined, and I had a meeting with about 20 of them, and they're all very interested in this, but I told them, you know, you guys can't do it by yourselves, you need everybody, you need to talk to your neighbors, your friends, your, you know, anybody you know in town, and that's the only way we're gonna ever even get anybody to even possibly listen to us. So I think there's I don't know the last count, but it was 20 people when the last, before I went out of town on Monday, that have already joined, and are trying to create a Wooddale fair organization, just a chapter like Bensonville has created.
And Peter was with me at the meeting. We went together. Did I leave anything out, Peter?
No, I mean, there was people there from all communities surrounding the airport. It did start out in Park Ridge and actually a portion of the city with 7 people, and it's now grown to people. There was basically people there from Bensonville. There was a few people from Wooddale, Schiller. I mean, basically several communities had people there to hear what they had to say.
And, right, I know we have 2 or 3 residents from Ward 4 already that are also, right, emailing. Right.
20 people emailing each other already, and I told them until I find out from a citywide what we're gonna do, you guys kinda have to just talk to your neighbors and friends, let them know, and that's how you're gonna make this organization grow and
Yeah,
possibly have some type of voice with O'Hare.
They've asked to be at Prairie Fest. You know, we don't see a problem. We're gonna have the Citizens Utility Board up there. at the front tables, and we'll put them right there next to them. So we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chief, you have anything on behalf of the manager's report? Okay, we do have our last movies in the park this week at dusk. I believe the movie is Miracle. Okay, that concludes the manager's report. Consent agenda, we have 17 items on the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Anything on the consent agenda? Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes. Next, we need a motion to approve the items on the agenda. Item number 1, approval of purchase of replacement furniture for the police department not to exceed amount of $16,685.
Make that motion.
No, wait,
Oh, I'm sorry.
let me read them all.
All right.
Then we'll make one motion. Approval of purchase of furniture for executive session and council chambers not to exceed $15,140. Item number 3, approval of pay request partial number 6, Williams Brothers Construction for the North Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrades, Phase 1B, not to exceed amount $661,153.45. Item number 4, approval of pay request partial number 7, Williams Brother Construction, Northwest Water Treatment Plant upgrades, Phase 1B, $1 million, not to exceed $1,128,411.25. Approval of, item number 5, approval of repairs of the drainage at the northeast island of City Hall parking lot, and not to exceed amount of $19,000. Item number 6, approval to purchase a 2-ton asphalt hot box not to exceed amount of $24,150. Item number 7, approval of installation of an electronic door access system at the wastewater treatment plant and not to exceed amount of $18,200. Item number 8, an ordinance authorizing a variance to building height to allow for construction of a 1-story office building at 300 Bauman Court. Item number 9, a resolution providing for the submission of a certain question to the electors of the city of Wooddale, Illinois regarding requesting federal enforcement of the Noise Control Act of 1972 against violations by aircraft. Item number 10, a resolution providing for the submission of a certain question to the electors of the city of Wooddale, Illinois regarding the O'Hare Noise Compatibility Commission's increasing residential soundproofing. Item number 11, a resolution providing for the submission of a certain question to the electors of the city of Wooddale regarding mandatory flight quiet restrictions. Item number 12, a resolution seeking to approve an agreement between the city of Wooddale and Robinson Engineering Services for the Hemlock Sidewalk Project not to exceed amount of $15,000. Item number 13, a resolution seeking to approve an agreement between the city of Wooddale and RJN Group for construction observation services for the manhole rehabilitation project and not to exceed amount of $25,650. Item number 14, a resolution seeking to approve a contract award to the city of Wooddale and John Neary Construction for stormwater improvements in the Woodside subdivision not to exceed amount of $199,802. Item number 15, an ordinance amending the city of Wooddale number parking ordinance, chapter 15, article 20, sections 15.2006 of the city code to include no parking on the west side of Edgewood Avenue from Elmhurst Street to Foster Avenue. Item number 16, an ordinance repealing the amusement tax provisions of the city of Wooddale City Code. Item number 17, an ordinance authorizing a variance to the side yard setback requirements to allow for construction of a new detached single-family residence at 331 North Oak. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes. Next, committee chairman reports, planning and zoning, Alderman Woods.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. Approval of license agreement between the city of Wooddale and 153 to 159 Front Street.
Do I have a motion? Is that your motion?
Yeah, that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike? Mike was first. Any questions? Alderman Roy Wesley.
Do they have the funds to do this? No?
Mr. Forrest?
I keep asking this question.
When this matter was before you previously, he did supply proof of funds at that time. We will get those from him before we move forward, before we issue the permit.
And when is this
Go ahead.
project going to be completed?
Mr. Forrest?
I believe the contractor expects it to take about 6 weeks.
You have a follow-up?
Nope.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call?
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes.
Next report is a resolution seeking to approve an agreement with the city of Wooddale for facade improvements for 153 to 159 Front Street. That is my motion.
Second.
Questions?
Questions? Roll call?
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes. Next.
Next is an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the ordinance number 1151 to remove a condition placed on the grant of the variances allowed for construction of the Oakwood Commerce Center at 700 North Wooddale Road. That is my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions? Mike, you have a question? Alderman Jacob.
I do have a question for Mr. Forrest. Last meeting, I asked this question. I just want to make sure before I vote on this. If this is approved tonight, we are going to have an engineer or somebody, I mean, not just city staff, we're going to have our engineering company look at this. And if there's any problems, they're going to deny it and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and start over. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Mr. Forrest.
yes.
The motion was for approval, yes. Yes, follow-up, go ahead.
And is there anything that they, for the trees that they are taking down, that they have to replace X amount of trees for every tree that they take down over
Mr.
there?
Forrest?
There is a schedule in the UDO that requires they provide replacement trees for the trees they remove. There's also provisions in the parking lot design that requires them to put in a predetermined amount of trees depending on how many parking spaces they're going to be putting in, so yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Catalano, go ahead, I'll work down the.
John, do we know how much acreage of land is going to be used up for these parking spaces?
Mr. Forrest.
I don't really know a specific acreage. I know they want to add about 315 parking spaces. They will need to be in compliance with the maximum allowable lot coverage per the zoning ordinance, which I believe is 80% for that property. So,
Okay, thanks.
John, so if they go over 80%, they need another variance?
correct.
And on their plans, they show a lot of permeable pavers, which we consider lot coverage. How are they going to address the stormwater? I'm still nervous about stormwater.
The preliminary plans that they've submitted so far don't really have the full lot coverage calculations on them. I can try and get those figures from you if you'd like to review those, but you're correct. It's, if they can achieve a lot coverage that is within compliance to the UDO, whether they use permeable pavers or concrete, it's immaterial. If they are using the permeable surfaces to exceed that 80%, then they would need to come in for a variation because, as you mentioned, the city council has not recognized that permeable pavers, I mean, you're still considering them lot coverage.
So we don't even know if they qualify, and we're going to grant the variation? Is that right? Am I understanding it right?
Yeah, that's pretty right.
I don't recall ever doing that in the past. I thought they'd come with the plans, drawing something.
Well, again, it's like we were discussing last week. They're coming seeking a certain variation from an existing ordinance that places certain restrictions on that property. Before they go out and do full-blown plans for submittal, they want some kind of an indication as to whether or not you as a city council are going to allow them to go forward with it.
Alderman Woods.
Yeah, I tried to go through all the research on this and the minutes and stuff. I didn't quite find all the things that I was looking for, but when they did these original hearings, I mean, there were a lot of things that were on the table: parking stall size, lot coverage, building setbacks, height requirements, and schedule for parking. I think there was a lot coverage at that time of 77%. And next thing will be more a statement. I mean, that Greenbelt area, you know, is mentioned in some of the minutes of the meeting, but I don't see anything where that, you know, what the end result was. Is that protected, supposed to stay there, and we're wiping that out? That's gonna be 6 acres of land and 30, 40, 100-year-old oak trees, besides the hill and the berm that we're wiping out, plus the back corner. I mean, my guess would be at least 8 to 10 acres of land would be covered.
Mr. Forrest.
Far off, or?
I would say that's probably, I mean, to guesstimate the acreage, I couldn't really agree with you on any figures on that, but it's my understanding from the city attorney that legally we are not bound to enforce the restrictive covenants of the subdivision. The reason that they are coming here seeking the variation is that at the time that subdivision was developed and these restrictive covenants were put into place, the city simultaneously adopted Ordinance 1151, which included some of those restrictive covenants. That's, to my knowledge, it's the only time that's happened
Go ahead.
in the city.
And I get that. The hard part for me when I was looking this up, I came up with more questions than I could answer, because there's, what was this one, resolution for 1151? So there's 49, 50, 51, and 52 are all part of this thing. So it seems like we enacted or accepted more responsibility than it sounds, although I haven't been able to find, you know, find 3 or 4 pages, and a couple pages are missing, so it's hard to get, I'm trying to piece it all together to see if it makes sense. So for me, taking out the hill and adding some parking, you know, I don't like it, maybe it's okay, maybe it's not okay, but when you wipe out that green belt, which if I read all the notes and stuff in the minutes from the different hearings,
Your
you
mic.
know, that was one of. When I read all the notes from all the community development and zoning board meetings, those were the big concerns, you know, the water, the ponds, the greenway or green belt that was in there, and that's how it got approved. So now we're gonna take that away. I mean, that's my hesitancy to just give them carte blanche to add, what is it, 50% more parking, wouldn't it be, or is it 100% more?
No, the existing, they have about 920
About 30%.
spots, I believe, and they want to add 315, so they want to
So-
increase it a third.
Third. You know, I guess this time I know there's a motion on the table, but,
There you
Go ahead.
Alderman Lazara, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, I'm against anything that has to do with covering more land. You know, we just had residents at the podium just talked about how the engineering wasn't right and it was creating more water problems. And here we are now talking about granting another area in town to cover more land. I just don't feel right about creating some more problems for our city with this water. I mean, we have the tollway going through. We don't know what's going to happen with that water. We say, yeah, maybe the engineers know, but again, engineers sometimes are wrong. We're creating more water problems again we're creating more water problems. I can't believe that this is even on the table when all we do is talk about stormwater, 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 and here we are talking about letting people cover more land? Unbelievable. I'm a definite no.
John, real quick, I mean, to get the variance, you need a hardship. I sat here and asked the gentleman last week, I go, why don't you put a parking garage in the back? And all he could tell me is, it's not cost effective. Is that the hardship? It's not cost effective?
Well, it's obviously a hardship as they see it.
Mr. Bach, could you enlighten me a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's eight, for the variance, there's 8 criteria. One of them is a hardship, that it's an unusual hardship will result if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out, which is not generally applicable to property within the same district. So their contention is, as the applicant, is that is the case with their, the restrictions on the number of parking spaces.
Basically, they meet all our standards, our requirements. They're just saying is they need more, right? Is that it?
Correct, yes. Our requirements are 1 spot or 3 spots per 1,000 square feet. And they exceed that. They're closer to 4 spots per 1,000 square feet existing. And then when you add the 208 remote spots that they have at that separate parking lot, that puts them to about 1,100 parking spots. So.
Right. You know, but I know they submitted some plans, and we don't know the percentage of lot coverage, if they're gonna go over the 80%. I mean, I don't know, the way, I was looking at the plans, I'm not an engineer, but it looks like it's way over 80%. So,
If it is, they would be coming back in front of you for a lot coverage variation. The plans that I have that I've been looking at don't have the lot coverage calculations on.
Alderman Roy Wesley, you had your hand up?
You know, there hasn't been any flooding in that area ever. Even in 1998, or last time when the bowling alley was flooded and everything else. That didn't flood. And if we're not gonna, if you're saying you don't wanna build more, then tell every house owner that wants to build on a lot, don't build because it's gonna create flooding. Don't build a restaurant because it's gonna create flooding. Don't build nothing, just leave us where it's at. And I don't wanna, the city has to move forward. We need businesses, we need sales tax. This is how to help it. I agree with what you're saying, Alderman Woods, about the trees and stuff like that, but they're gonna replace the trees. The guy just said last week that he can't rent the building because there's not enough parking. So, don't bring the business in.
Regarding residents, I mean, they have a specific lot coverage, so these guys also have a specific lot coverage. If it's 80% and they want 90, you know, everything within the rules. Otherwise, we'll do it to be a free-for-all. Alderman Woods.
Yeah. First, we haven't had any problems because they designed it correctly. They got it right. They allowed the 6 or 7 acres of greenway space in there. They allowed the berm and all the natural space. We're gonna take that away. So if the argument is not flooding now, yeah, because we have all the land, we take it away. I don't know if it's gonna flood, but it's certainly gonna add to the problem. As far as chasing businesses out, our existing code still, they have twice the amount of parking than the minimum for our code. Is that correct, Mr. Forrest?
Mr. Forrest, go ahead.
For these buildings, if they were to build complying to code, they would only be required to provide 720 spaces.
Right, and they have over
Currently,
900.
they have 910, and then they have 208 available at a remote lot.
And we kind of went through this with the DeVry building. They didn't have enough parking, we gave them more parking. They didn't have enough parking again, we gave them the street. And then they moved out. I mean, it was, at some point, it has to change. Now we're tearing down the building. Magically, somebody found a better way. They're gonna tear down the building and build a new building. Maybe that should have been done 5 years ago. I mean, the alternative can't always be the city giving more land and covering more land and creating more potential flooding issues. I don't know if it'll create a flooding issue, but it certainly seems like it will when you take up that much free land in that area. I mean, there has to be, I was a little concerned about the hill, but when I saw they're taking out that greenbelt and greenway area, I mean, that's substantial chunk that they're gonna be covering. And I don't see how they can make up for that, you know, and then, so then in another 2 years, they're gonna say after they get, how many spaces will they have? So that'll give them 1,300, 1,400 spaces? What are they gonna want next year, 16, 1,700?
Mr. Forrest?
If the plan were approved, they would have 1,230 spaces on site, and then the other 208 at the remote site, so they would have in excess of 1,400 spaces.
You have a follow-up, Alderman Woods? I'm not even sure they even meet all the criteria and really have a hardship. Alderman Jacob?
Just two questions. Again, I'm still kind of on the whole fence about this whole thing, but number one, I mean, if we had our city engineers here, I mean, we have a consulting firm that is an engineering firm. I'm not sure why they're not here tonight to possibly help answer some questions. And number two, I mean, we do have a community development commission that the city has to give us recommendations, and I think that they voted for this, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true? or-
Mr. Forrest?
Yes, the Community Development Commission voted unanimous to recommend approval to the city council. As far as why the city engineer is not here to comment on it, again, we're a full waiver community from DuPage County. We issue our own stormwater management permits. We're not going to do anything to jeopardize that responsibility. So, again, our city engineers are going to have to review these plans and be sure that they're in compliance with the stormwater management ordinance, or they're not going to approve them.
Yeah, follow-up, go ahead.
Yeah, how long has that building been vacant again?
Mr. Forrest?
A few of the buildings have been vacant since HSBC moved out, and that was probably about 5 years ago. They have rented one of the buildings. I believe the north building has tenants in it, but the 3 buildings to the south do not.
Alderman Woods?
Yeah, one, as to the zoning board passing this, the one in 81 is the one that created the rules, and we want to change it. So if we're going to address those boards, those were the ones that came up with it. They were the ones smart enough to foster these good plans and to keep the greenway space in the berm. And now we want to come and take it away. I mean, I like to see the guy rent the building. Obviously, that's good for the city, you know, but I also know how some of these developers are. They set a criteria and they want a long-term renter with a 10-year lease for all the space because that's easier for them, and they can't find that person. You know, how many buildings are there? 3 or 4 buildings back there. If they divided it up, they'd probably be able to rent it. They won't get the rent that they want. You know, they'll take a little less, but if you subtract the cost of tearing out the berms and the trees and all that, and just have to insert this here so I don't forget about the trees. They're supposed to replace the trees, but there won't be enough land left to plant all the trees there to replace the trees they're taking out. So they have to give the city over 100 trees to plant somewhere else. Am I correct? 125 or something like that?
Mr. Forrest?
That's probably a good guesstimate, yes.
Okay.
All right, let's have a roll call.
Alderman Catalano?
No.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Lazara?
No.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Abstain.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
No.
Mayor Police?
No. That fails. Does that conclude your report?
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public Health and Safety, Alderman Roy Wesley. Thank you. Public Works, Alderman Lazara.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two, report and recommendation, installation of street light on School Street at the Wooddale Itasca Reservoir parking lot in the not-to-exceed amount of $12,538. That is my motion. Do I have a
Second.
second?
Any questions?
Mike?
Alderman Sismarski?
I'm sorry.
Should be lights, correct? It's not just one going up, or did we change that?
Matt, could you,
Yes, thank you.
Good.
There's gonna be two lights ultimately at that location. We're asking for one at this time, the solar-powered light on the north side of the road. The second light is gonna be attached to the ComEd pole that's within the cul-de-sac area itself. Due to some changeover and illnesses within ComEd, our relationship with them, they're a little bit slower to act, and I'd like to get this done as soon as possible. So at this time, I'm just bringing forward the one light.
you have a follow-up?
No, it's a thing.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes. Go ahead.
Number two, report and recommendation, early right of entry agreement for Illinois Tollway on City of Wooddale property. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, Frank. And roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes, and just so everybody knows, there was some discussion about hold harmless that will be incorporated into, Mr. Bond, you wanna?
Yeah, and you'll get, so this gave the authorization to allow for the right of entry for the tollway to go in and start doing some of the work, some of the terms, and there is a right of entry agreement that was proposed by the tollway. We've been working with Scott Marklord, our consulting engineer, to come up with the terms. So we've got terms in there. We're going to circulate around, make sure everyone signs off on it. We'll then send it to the tollway. And, but this gives the tollway the understanding that you're going to go forward with it, but the city will be protected with some of the concerns that were raised previously. So that's incorporated into the right of entry agreement.
Thank you. And that concludes your report?
Board Member, thank you.
Finance and Administration, Alderman Sismarski.
A resolution accepting the appraisals of certain city-owned parcels on the property and authorizing their transfer to the Illinois Tollway Highway Authority. There's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right, Mike made the. Roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes. That's it.
That is,
Thank you. No other business. We do have approved list of bills, July 3rd and July 17th. Alderman Sismarski.
July 3rd, 2014, I have $352,819.79
That is your motion.
is my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions? Alderman Roy Wesley. Is that for this packet or the next packet?
Payment 717.
No, not yet.
That's the next one.
Okay. I'll wait.
Roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes.
I have July 17th, 2014, $152,910.77. That's my motion.
Second.
Questions, Alderman Roy Wesley, agenda?
Page 1, Bob's Awesome Lemonade. Why are we giving $550 back for the
Oh,
fest?
I can answer that. He had paid his money for the booth and it's being refunded. He's no longer gonna be at the fest.
So you give the full refund back?
Yes, for this one we do.
You're 2 weeks, less than a month away.
Right, it's been taken care of. We did not We sent it back.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger. Yes. Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That passes. We do need an executive session, and we will need a motion to recess into executive session to review the official minutes and land acquisition. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're recessed. Meeting back to order, roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Oh, that brings back memories. Alderman Jacob. Alderman Lazara.
Here.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Leaving.
Alderman R. Wesley. Alderman Winger. Alderman Woods.
Here.
Mayor Police.
Here, quorum present. We need a motion to approve an ordinance approving a conveyance agreement for the acquisition of 130 and 132 Elizabeth Court, Wooddale, Illinois. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Who's first, who's second?
Art's first,
Art's
Roy
first.
second.
There you go.
Peter second.
No.
Thank
You
you.
missed, I'm sorry.
Again?
You gotta be faster.
That Peter's
Roll
quick.
call, please.
Okay, here we go. Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Jacob.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger. Yes. Alderman Woods.
Yes.
That
Passes.
passes. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, my.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And who's
Motion
second?
carries. I figured
Who
you would
was
have been
second?
fast on that one.